Welcome to the NanoCap podcast. I'm your host, Will Chernlin, and I'm excited to have you join me on this journey through the world of NanoCap companies. For the past decade, I've talked to thousands of business owners across various industries. It's been an enlightening experience revealing the vast tapestries of entrepreneurship and innovation that thrives beneath the surface of mainstream media coverage. Each week, I will interview different leaders of NanoCap publicly traded companies to learn about their history, what they do now, and their future. As a reminder, none of this information is financial advice, and it is all for entertainment purposes only. Let's start this week's episode. Hi, everyone. On this week's podcast, we have Dr. Dwain Irvin, the CEO of NovAccess Global. The stock ticker is XSNX. NovAccess Global is a biomedical company developing novel immunotherapy for brain tumor patients. Dr. Irvin, thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Will. Much appreciated.
So, as I went through your LinkedIn and tried to learn a little bit about where you came from, you started off as an investigator and researcher at UCLA and then pivoted into the business world. Can you tell me a little bit about you working in academia and what made you want to get into the business world and try your own thing?
Absolutely. So like most others in the pharmaceutical or biotech business, we all get started in academia. So did an undergrad at Hopkins and then went on to UCLA Med School to get a PhD in pharmacology, molecular medical pharmacology. And there did research dissertation on how brain stem cells build brain tissue, and then went on to Sweden to do a postdoc on how brain stem cells can repair brain tissue in the context of Parkinson's disease. That was a typical academic route for my career, and then took a professor position at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center, Department of Neurosurgery, and continued to do work in Parkinson's. But the department is well known for treating glioblastoma patients, considered the top 5 departments in the country to focus in on that brain tumor, which, by the way, is the most common adult brain tumor and has very bad prognosis, roughly 15-month median survival after diagnosis for those patients. And that hasn't really changed in 40, 50 years. So we were trying to figure out ways to improve the outcomes for those patients at the hospital. And ultimately, I picked up what the hospital had been working on, and that's this novel approach of using the patient's immune system to attack cancer instead of chemo and radiation, otherwise known as immunotherapy, or a vaccine to prevent cancer recurrence. And so developed a couple of patents there and continued to move it forward. But it's at the clinical trial stage, or right at the doors for the clinical trial stage. And academia, while it's great for creative ideas and moving those things forward, as you bring technology closer and closer to market, it becomes a lot more expensive. And typically, the technology has to get spun out of academia into the private and or public sector. So I went along with the asset, as I am a co-founder and scientist behind it. And in due course, when appropriate, we decided to take it out of academia and move it forward. So that's how the transition went. And I think for most scientists who come up with new discoveries in this regard, they have the choice of either staying in academia and letting others move the technology forward to the market, or maybe if they're fortunate enough can stay along with it for as long as appropriate. And so I'm still here with it, keeping it going.
As I've heard with the other talks, the other forms of chemotherapy for other forms of cancer and tumors, it's progressed a ton in the last 50 years, and with the brain it has not. So as you've discovered this novel idea, you're looking to commercialize it. Where in there is acquiring a solar panel company from California? How does that happen in there?
Right. So it's part of a process called a reverse merge. So when you want to take your company public, you can do it through an IPO situation where you initially come into the market and you come in through a process that can take a little bit of time and cost a fair amount of money. There are some public companies that aren't in operations or their business no longer requires them to be public. And so they'll put their company up for sale for companies looking to go public. And you can typically go public faster and at a less expensive cost by doing it through this process. So we took over a solar panel company that had been around in public for 20 years, no longer needed the public platform. And so they were like, hey, we have an opportunity here for anyone who wants to go public to use our company. So we came in and bought the company from them, changed the ownership, management, and the business plan and the name. So instead of it being a solar panel company, we said, hey, now we're a biotech company treating cancer patients. And so, yeah, that's how that happened.
Is there any sort of position like HR or something that can stay on when you do something like that? Or is it kind of just like, hey, this company is completely a new company, everything's got to go type of thing?
Yeah, we maintained partnerships with the previous owner, who's actually an investor in our company as well.
Oh,
and we were able to he was really useful in helping us get off the ground, if you will, as a public company and the like. And so there are a lot of rules and things that are very different than a private company. And so we didn't have to do much of a learning curve with the previous owner in that regard. But they were happy to step to the side and move forward.
No, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And if they were in the biotech space, we might have kept one or two of them on. But
Yep.
it was a long distance between solar panels and immunotherapy for cancer. But it's a great question, and hopefully that brings some clarification to the table.
Yeah, my last follow-up question on it is just like, you don't have to give me exact numbers or anything like that, but I was just kind of curious about like how much time is saved or how much money is saved as like a percentage-wise going through a company that's already public for sale compared to starting from scratch.
So there is no one answer fits all. It really does depend on how large the company was before, and what business structure they're under, and how much they value the company at, and that kind of translates to how much it can cost. But just to give you an example, it might take 1+ years to do an IPO for a company, and in this particular case, it's just a matter of negotiations and coming to some form of agreement. So I was not involved in that process, but the previous chair who was, I think, was able to navigate the waters and negotiate over a few months. So you'd be hard pressed to get a public company within a few months through the IPO process.
Oh, 100%. I hear about companies going public and they don't finally get listed until 18 months later type of thing, because the road show and this and that. And so, no, I'm with you. That couple months is a breeze when it comes to getting listed for sure.
Another benefit by doing it in this way, just to add, is that, those shareholders for the previous solar panel company, if they're interested in a new business plan, they may very well stay on. And we've been fortunate enough to have a lot of those shareholders stay on because they believe in the science.
Can you explain a little bit more why the TLR81 is such a novel idea when it comes to handling the brain tumors? I watched a few of your speeches, but obviously I'm no medical expert, so a lot of it went over my head. So yeah, if you can explain in as layman terms as possible why this is such a unique treatment to help with brain tumors.
Absolutely. So, we've been learning about the immune system as we go, and we've learned a lot in the last 50 years. And as you've mentioned, we've seen all kinds of benefits with chemo and radiation over the last 50 years. But unfortunately, due to certain physiological processes like the blood-brain barrier and other things, chemo and radiation really hasn't benefited brain tumor patients like cancer patients. And we've learned a while ago that the immune system can indeed identify cancer cells and go after them and kill them. Unfortunately, a lot of times these cancer cells are cloaked or hiding, if you will, and it's tough for the immune system to recognize these as bad cells like they would bacteria or viruses. Bacteria and viruses look so foreign when they enter our system. It kind of makes it a little easier for the immune system to identify them and initiate the mechanism to get rid of them. So we think that if we can uncloak the cancer cells, so to speak, and allow the immune system to recognize these cells as bad, then we can enhance their ability to go out and find the cancer cells and kill them off. And so effectively, we're trying to use immunotherapy or vaccine technology in a very similar way that we do to treat bacteria and viruses. So we want to be able to just change the focus from going after bacteria and viruses and start going after cancer cells. And so
It,
this, Mhm. So that's effectively what we're doing without getting too TLR80. So this idea of immunotherapy to treat brain cancer in particular, we started doing clinical trials in this space at the old department over 20 years ago. And TLR81 is an advanced version of what we had been developing that long ago. Now, it hasn't made it to market yet, the original or parent approach to this, and now TLR81 is trying to pick up the ball where the original technology left off. Albeit this is roughly 5-10 years later, but it's taken us long to bring this new technology to where it is today. And we've compared this TLR81 version of this dendritic cell-based immunotherapy to the parent version that made a big splash 10 years ago, 15 years ago, where we were able to show for the first time this dendritic cell immunotherapeutic approach to treat cancer would actually move the needle and improve median survival in these patients from 15 months to 21, 22 months. And it was the first time we saw this kind of improvement in therapy when compared to chemo and radiation in over 40, 50 years. And so we've been trying to move this forward to market for brain tumors. This approach has come to market to treat prostate cancer and others, and we're trying to get it over the hump for brain cancer as well, so these patients can benefit from the new technology as well.
So I know part of your growth strategy too is to hopefully, as this gets approved, acquire other type of patents like this. Would you want to stay in this category of immunotherapy to try it against other cancers, or are you just trying to branch out to any sort of patent that looks like it has some sort of promise behind it but needs a little bit more push?
No, we're very focused. We're laser beam focused on our brain cancer right now. And we would like to pivot that out to other neurological diseases and or cancer in general. But right now, we're laser beam focused, and we think that's required to really get this where it needs to be for brain tumors. So in actuality, we are looking at other assets that would work in conjunction with our immunotherapy and or would be beneficial for glioblastoma patients. In fact, we're working on a companion diagnostic right now that we'd like to bring in-house to go along as our second asset to go along with the therapeutic that we currently have. And this diagnostic would be another first for the field where physicians could use this approach to identify before therapy whether or not the patient's tumor profile will allow it to be recognized, and these patients become responders, if you will, to our therapy, and hopefully have an improvement in survival.
That's amazing.
NovAccess Global, we want to be that company where people can turn to and say, look, they're very focused on developing a variety of different approaches to improving the quality of life for brain cancer patients and other cancer patients and or neurological patients moving forward. We'd like to kind of be like a mini Pfizer or a mini Genentech or something like this.
So as you're working on neurological issues, I have to ask, since it's the kind of the topic of the last couple of days, have you seen what they're doing over at the Neuralink company with the controlling a computer with people's brains?
Yeah, so this technology has been developed over a couple of decades, and it's good to see it finally starting to really get some penetration into the market. You know, predictive technologies, AI or artificial intelligence, right? Scientists are taking advantage of these new technologies, right, and bringing them together to work synergistically to improve the quality of life for patients. And we too are on that same path. We currently have R&D with another company in the predictive medicine or AI space, where we can be able to combine our technology with that and improve it moving forward. We see the value in that, and we're very focused in on doing that.
Okay, yeah, sorry about the side tangent, but I don't hear about neurological breakthroughs very often. So when I got an expert on the podcast, I at least have to ask.
Yeah, we are really, the last 20 years have been phenomenal on a variety of, information processing, neuroscience, all of it, right? Stem cell biology, gene therapy. We really are on the cutting edge here now. And it's, we're working together, bringing these technologies, not reinventing the wheel, but bringing in the right experts and the right team together to move this technology forward as quickly as possible. It's really exciting. And it's like being a kid in a candy store to some degree, being able to focus in on these sorts of toys, if you will, to improve quality of life and improve cancer and change these people's lives and the families' lives that they take care of these patients.
As you've mentioned earlier, with NovAccess going through the different trials and FDA certifications, with you being classified now as an orphan drug, how does that change with how you get approved from the FDA, if anything?
Right. So it's a great feather in the cap or great designation to have at this stage. Um, and so it gives us opportunities to work directly with the FDA Orphan Drug Office when it comes to clinical trial design, execution, and the like. So that's a real good benefit. Not everyone, without that designation, you don't necessarily get that close communications and interactions with the FDA, the regulatory agency that's overseeing it all. And so that's really good. Furthermore, the FDA provides opportunity for non-dilutive funding, grants, and the like to help move the technology forward. They want to work closely with us, right, to bring this technology forward in the safe and most efficacious possible way. And that's what the orphan drug designation does. It allows us to work very closely with the FDA in other ways that we couldn't. So funding, collaboration in order to make sure the trials are designed properly and analyzed well. Tax breaks, etc. So all of these things are designed to help move the technology through this necessary process of clinical trials to make sure it's safe and efficacious for humans. And this orphan drug designation, we'd like to think would help us go through this process as efficiently as possible by working with the FDA directly, their orphan drug office.
So going from researcher to CEO, where in there did you have time to learn about the business of selling medical devices and buying a public company and all that? Where did you have great advisors? Did you sneak off to business school at night, or where did that information all come from?
Absolutely. We were private for some time, and there was a learning curve there, and we got a fair amount of experience under our belt as a private company, and then we went public. Again, I think today's day, it's important to build the right kind of teams, right? Individuals with expertise in the right areas. And so my idea was to bring on the right C-level management, the right kind of board that has the experience necessary to run a public company, right? And help move the asset forward. And so we have great chairman of the board, 20-year plus history with public companies at a very high level. Another independent board member who is CEO for a couple of different companies in biotech space and has patents. The CFO has worked with public companies much larger for over 30 years. And so my idea was not to try and reinvent the wheel and learn how to run the business on all levels from a business perspective, but to bring in the right team to work with to make sure we can get that job done. And having said that, our team grows, as it should grow, and it changes as it should change as the needs and demands change. So we can look forward to seeing some new executive board members in the near future as we get closer and closer and into trials, and expect to see other C-level management moving forward that has experience in this space, moving products through trials and commercializing them to market.
So in a perfect world, say your dendritic solution gets approved tomorrow. Then what? Is it a marketing team? Is it a sales team? Is
Absolutely.
How do you even think about building that out? And do the salesmen then go head off to different cancer centers, or how does that kind of what's those next steps once you've been waiting for so long?
Well, great question. The great news is that all of us who are in this business of treating these patients, we try to keep abreast as to what's going on, right? What's coming to market? What's in clinical trials? What's available for these patients right now? And so as we get closer, we bring in those people and make sure when the time is ready, they're already in place. So when we do come to market with the technology, if we're so blessed, then yeah, we would have other physicians promoting the word, looking for the technology. Patients would be looking for the technology, right? So that they can live longer and have their life extended and be in a better quality of life. So I think that everyone works together to get the word out that this is available, right? And then we work hard to make sure that every patient has access to this as possible. And so those experts in those areas aren't needed now, but they will be needed later. So we want to make sure we make the best use of shareholder investments. And so we try to make sure the team is appropriate for the given time period of where the technology is. But it would be all hands on deck to make sure that all patients who could benefit from this would benefit from anything that we bring to market. And we, of course, would want to expand the market once we're there. Great question.
Yeah, for my last question as we wrap it up, you have this wide breadth of knowledge in the medical field over your career. If you had 48 hours in a day, what other problems would you be solving, or what's some other issues that you kind of just bother you at night, but you know you just don't have enough time to dedicate a research lab to it and all that? What would you solve?
Yeah, well, outside of time, thanks for controlling for that one. It's also investments. You know, there's so much great technology that simply needs funding to get to market and to make a real difference for people out here today, especially patients. And, you know, we're all fighting for, you know, for the funds necessary to do that. It's a competitive world, a competitive market. And so we'd like to try to make sure for that reason we are as competitive as possible. And that's why we like to be with cutting edge new technologies that we first test well in our models in the laboratory and the like, and then we bring to the clinic. And this is just one of those technologies. It's not another chemo drug being tested over the last 30, 40 years. It's not another radiation approach. This is a novel approach that's proving itself to be very good for other cancers and very promising for brain cancer. And so I would just say, with 48 hours in a day, if I had a magic wand and can simply communicate to all those who would be willing to invest in this and make a difference for these brain cancer patients, they have a 15-month median survival after diagnosis, right? And we have technology that we believe can make a difference and move that needle. And that's in TLR81 and others to come. The entire field of immunotherapy is very fantastic, has a lot of promise, and it will be one of the major tools for clinicians to use moving forward. And we're happy to be here on the front line.
Well, thank you so much for spreading the word on the NanoCap podcast and coming on. If people would like to learn more information about what you're working on or any other information about the kind of solutions that you come up with for people with different sorts of brain tumors, where can they get in contact, or where can they find out more?
Absolutely. Great question. So NovAccessGlobal.com is our webpage. On there, we have links to all our social media sites. We have a YouTube channel. We have a LinkedIn page. We have a Facebook page. We have a TikTok page. Or I'm sorry, not TikTok, Twitter or X.
Yeah.
So we try to stay active on the social media side. On our YouTube page, I think is a really great page to go to. We have over 10, 15 different videos, interviews with CEO, CFO, patient advocates, other scientists, board members. We like to keep our people informed. We want people to, when they find out about us, to be able to have a place to go and check in and within a half hour, really have a good sense as to who we are, the science, and the team that's behind it. And we like to think that these social media platforms are great opportunities for that. Furthermore, for our investors, and they want to know what's happened in the last few months or what's going on tomorrow, they can go to this YouTube channel and get a good sense of that as well. So, and any other this podcast, we think would likely to be another news source, and we'd love to be back on again as we progress through the clinical trials and the like. So we're trying our best to get that word out there. But the webpage, NovAccessGlobal.com, is a great place to start, or the YouTube page, NovAccess Global, is a great place to start.
I can vouch for the YouTube page being very educational and helpful. So
Great.
Thanks again, Dr. Irvin, for coming on the podcast. And for those still listening, please remember to subscribe and review. And thanks again.
Thank you very much. You have a great day, and I really appreciate what you're doing with this podcast. Thank you.
This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not provide financial, legal, or any other advice. The information is not investment advice or any offer to buy or sell any securities or to make any investment. The views expressed by the guests are their own, and any reference to third-party products, services, or information does not constitute an endorsement